the CEO of the South African Football Association. Well, to get into that big title, I'm sure there must have been a very interesting life.
It took me changing a career to end up where I am. I put my name under soccer. It was the boys, so I put my name there. And the teacher came, scratched my name and said, "No, you're a girl. You must go play hockey or netball or something. We don't need girls here." It was only when I got to Wits University to study my BCom and I stayed in res that I discovered that actually there was a whole league on women's soccer. That's how I got to study accounting, but deep down I wanted to study sport management. My family was not sport crazy, which maybe took me out of a lot of trouble.
Splendid to observe how sport kept you out of trouble.
Basketballers broke my heart.
And then from there, you're living a double life.
It was just a split moment where I did not show my mother respect because she was my everything.
Welcome in the Valley. I'm your host today and my name is Ibrahim Sanya. We have an amazing show today, but before that, a gentle reminder. Press that subscribe button, join the community of funders and founders, changing sports, tech, entertainment, and fashion from Africa to the rest of the world. And never miss a thing. Enjoy the show. Hey Lydia, so good to have you here. Welcome to In the Valley. Ibrahim, your host. So good to see you after a fabulous game we watched together on Saturday for basketball. But having you as a guest on that match was just fabulous. The CEO of the South African Football Association. Well, to get into that big title, I'm sure there must have been a very interesting life before that.
Yeah, thanks Ibrahim for inviting me to your show, your podcast. I feel honored given the number of people and the celebrities that have, been interviewed by yourself on your show. It's been an interesting life. Basketball has been a close passion of mine. So whenever there are basketball games, you are bound to see me there if I've got time. But obviously football is my number one at the moment because I work there. It helps me put food on the table, and I spend many hours on the football pitch as compared to the basketball court. So I've done both, but I belong to both. So, yeah.
I'm intrigued. And I think our audience is as well. So tell us about that dual life into sport from a very childhood age. Why don't you start with that little girl under the age of 9? How did you go to the phase of becoming an athlete? Because before this big title, you were basically playing in the Bafana Bafana. You were first a renowned athlete in the local territory, then global. But how was the discussion to get your parents to accept you to become that Lydia?
Yeah, firstly it's Banyana Banyana.
Banyana
girls.
Banyana.
Bafana, it's the boys. Yeah.
See, that's a very important correction.
Yeah, no worries.
Banyana Banyana.
Yeah, so I did not grow up in a family or a family that was wild about sport, other than them watching football, to be honest. I grew up in a village in the north of the country, Limpopo.
Nice.
And I mean a rural village. I don't mean those villages you get in England or fancy stuff, running water, electricity. I mean a proper African village. I was studying at Swarisanen Primary School, which is a public school. There we were exposed to 3 different kinds of sporting codes. It was netball for the girls. There was football or soccer for the boys, and then athletics for everyone. Otherwise, the girls would do knitting and gardening together with the boys, and then the boys would do like cleaning the yard, so to speak. So that was what kept us busy. Those were our extramurals in a public school in a village. That was all we had. But at the age of 10, 11, I got a scholarship from the Bophuthatswana government. Back then we had homelands. For South Africa, then we had several homelands, Bophuthatswana, Ciskei, Transkei. Those are the ones, Venda as well. So my village fell under Bophuthatswana, the Bophuthatswana homeland. So there was a new school that was started in Mafikeng, which fell under Bophuthatswana, a British school that was started. So the government of Bophuthatswana went around the different villages identifying kids that were academically gifted so that they can give them scholarships so they can study at this new school. So I went through exams in my local area. I emerged top, and I went into a district exam where I was one of the top 5. And then we went to the school where we wrote another exam with all these kids everywhere else. And then I was one of the selected kids with my minimum English to be.
Congratulations.
If I remember correctly. So I was selected to get into the school. I was finishing my standard 5, which is like grade 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then I had to start at that new school when I was about to move to middle school or secondary school. So at the age of 11, I moved to Mafikeng. I left my family in the village and I moved to boarding school where they took care of me. All my needs were taken care of. I think my parents had to just pay for uniform, for my transport to and from school. That, to an ordinary person, that was not much that my parents had to contribute. But given that my mother was a domestic worker, my father was just a mere driver, it was a lot of money. And I came from a family of six siblings, 3 brothers and 2 sisters, and I was the last born.
You're the last born.
Yeah, so they had to take care of all of us, but they were working in the city, and we were staying and studying in the village, because then it was during those times where it was very volatile. We had a house in Soweto, that's where I was born, but it was very volatile staying in Soweto because they were scared my brothers would get enticed by the politics and end up being killed or something. So that's why they moved us to the village. So that's how I ended up at the International School of Bophuthatswana, it was called then. Now it's called the International School of South Africa. And then there was no women's soccer, to be honest. I tried registering for women's soccer. There was all sorts of sporting codes, like, to be honest. I even learned how to play basketball when I was there. I did jiu-jitsu, I did karate, I did volleyball, anything under the sun. I just could not do squash because I did not have an extra pair of shoes to do squash. The sports like golf and horse riding, they were costly. My parents were not going to be able to afford those, so I stayed off those. I did cycling. They had to borrow a bike for me to do cycling because I just was trying everything under the sun. And then, we learned basketball because one school once came from Swaziland to come play us a friendly Waterford Kamhlaba, they were called. And then we had to put together a basketball team very quickly. There was no girls' basketball team. And they had to teach us the basics right there and then so that we can prepare for the school. And the school came, they thrashed us. They really thrashed us. But after they left, we started taking basketball seriously. But at some point I was like, after I saw a show where they were showing Banyana Banyana, I got interested in women's football and I wanted to play. But there was, like I said, no women's soccer at the school. And then once when we were registering our interests for the extramurals, I put my name under soccer. It was the boys, so I put my name there. And the teacher came, scratched my name, said, "No, you're a girl. You must go play hockey or netball or something. We don't need girls here." So the boys would continue playing. I did everything, but there was one volunteer at the school, a guy who used to just take me on the side and teach me basics of soccer, although I didn't play with anybody. And it was only in my last year at the school that a teacher who was coming from the US joined the school, Mr. Hunt, and he was very passionate about women's soccer. He said, "Why you guys don't have women's soccer here?" And they told him, "No, they don't. They only have for the boys." And he put together a soccer team, 5-a-side. So there was not that many of us. We put together 5-a-side. He started asking the schools around if they wanted to play friendly matches. And then we'll play, all the other schools you could see, they were also starting. They were not, no one was a superstar. There was no one the girls didn't have that much skill. We were just playing for fun. It was only when I got to Wits University to study my BCom, and I stayed in Res, that I discovered that actually there was a whole league on women's soccer. And it was really a really serious league, and the university was competing in this inter-university clubs that, I thought, hey, let me give it a go. Well, before I left the school, my sport teacher told me that I needed to cut down on the number of sport that I did. When I get to university, I needed to choose because I was doing too many things. He said, you need to choose one or two and stick to them. So when I got to Wits, I was thinking athletics, and I was thinking maybe basketball. I could continue with that. But when I discovered that women's soccer was very big at university, and I wasn't that great. Athletics, I wasn't that great at it. I was fast, but I wasn't as fast as was required. So I put my name down for the inter-race soccer, which we played I think it was Tuesday nights. And then they actually started playing for another race, not my race. And then my race came to fight that, no, that's our player, because they discovered actually I'm not that bad. And then I played basketball. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays I played basketball, and Mondays and Wednesdays I played soccer. And at some point I played both sport for the university first teams. The coaches actually had to talk and say, these two training sessions are clashing and we have a common player. So what do we do? So, because both sports used to be on a Tuesday and a Thursday. So they had to differentiate so that they don't clash. And then I can participate in both for the race and for the university as well. So that's how I actually got deep into soccer and basketball. At university, I played both, and I liked both of them at the same time. The opportunities were similar. There was the university team. There was also a Gauteng team that you could get into, compete in the South African inter-provincial clubs, inter-provincial tournaments. So there was opportunity on both sides. So I could have gone either way if I wanted. But like I said, my family was not sport crazy. I just discovered sport when I got to the international school and also at varsity, which maybe took me out of a lot of trouble, because then if I wasn't playing basketball, I was playing soccer, or I was in the classroom. So I didn't have lots of time to mess around and get up to no good. So that's me in a nutshell.
Wow. That's a fantastic story. It's splendid to observe how sport kept you out of trouble, but also even before sport became your core, you were already doing excellent at school, and you used that mental coordination to apply it to a quite wide range of sport options while in high school. And it's not until university, because a lot of athletes, is usually during high school, they get discovered and they align with their territory of passion. But you discover your territory of passion in university. And then from there, you're living a double life.
So to speak, yeah. Yeah.
Between soccer and basketball.
Yeah.
So what made you jump to Banyana Banyana in football and not the route of basketball?
Basketballers broke my heart, if you want to know the truth. I remember once I got selected for a Gauteng team, university team, and I also had made the football team, soccer team, Gauteng soccer team, but I decided it was more difficult getting into the basketball team, so I wanted to be in the basketball team, and I'd been in the soccer team before, so I wanted the basketball team. So I told my football coach that no, I'm not going to be competing for you this time around. I'm going to be competing for the basketball, in the basketball tournament. He gave me his blessing. I went to basketball because we had been through intensive trials, and I made it. I was one of the 12 that was selected. And I think 3 weeks before we left for the tournament, they came to tell me that they're dropping me from the team because one of the players that had not trialed out, who was injured, she was now okay, and they had to take one player out, and I was the player that was scratched. I cried. I remember that day so well. I cried. I sat on the stairs and I cried. My friends were there. My heart was really broken, to be honest. So and I was like, I left football. I had excused myself from the football team for the basketball team. Now this just scratched me out like I was a nobody. And the holidays were coming and the tournaments were coming. I was going home. I wasn't going to the tournaments.
So any of the two.
Yeah, and in university, you look forward to the tournaments. And I had nowhere to go. So, after I think 2 days of crying and my friends giving me ice cream and trying to, cheer me up, I gathered enough courage and I went back to my soccer coach and said, look, I told him the story honestly, why I had gone to the basketball team and what had happened. And then I said, if there's still space on the football team, I'd really like to come back and give it a go. I don't mind trialing again. And then he said he'll think about it. They still had a camp coming up, so he said no. When the camp comes up, I'll let you know if I call you. And then I think for 2 weeks leading up to the camp, there was one guy. He was a Rastafarian guy. He just took his time out of nowhere and said, hey, I want to train you so that you can be ready for that camp. So every afternoon I used to meet up with this guy who used to train until I got tired. And then I was very fit and ready for the camp. The camp came, they played a friendly match, and then I started on the bench, obviously. I think second half they brought me in so that they looked at their team dynamics, so to speak, and then they were like, okay, let's see if she can fit back into this team. And then I played my heart out. I think I scored 2 goals in that game. I worked like really hard because I really wanted to be in that team. And then, that's how I got back into the team. And then I continued playing basketball, but there was a hole. I think they left a hole in me, They left a big hole in me because it was like I'd been dumped by a boy, that I really liked. That's how it felt. And then, I played basketball. I was really cautious about it. They would call me for trials. I wasn't really into that. So I would check what's happening in soccer first. Soccer then became my number one because I was like, at least they took care of me. Yes. They gave me a chance. So they seemed like the ones that would take care of me. So that's how I actually ended up choosing soccer over basketball.
And then ultimately the national team.
Yeah, and then actually after I got selected for the Gauteng team, reselected into the Gauteng team, we went to participate in this tournament. Firstly, we had to participate for the university, as a university, and then later on we started as a Gauteng team, where I wouldn't say I was too bad. I wasn't clued up in terms of positional football, so they had to coach me around that. But it was at Wits where they coached me a lot, so that I can be the kind of player that they were looking for. And then we had to, while we were preparing for this Gauteng, the Gauteng, the national tournament, we had an inter-university qualifiers for a inter-university tournament that would happen at the end of the year. But we had to qualify in Gauteng first. So I went to play in the Gauteng, and they could see that there's something in me. I did quite well. People were like, hey, that girl from Wits, you must look out for her. And the same came the Gauteng, the national tournament. They were like, there's something in that girl. Just be wary about her. And then at the inter-university tournament, I was the top goal scorer, my first tournament, and I did pretty well. And then I think 2-3 years later, my coach spoke to the national team coach to say, man, I've got this girl that's playing for me. She plays for I was playing for the SA, for the South African university soccer team. Okay. Says, no, I've got this player in my team. She's my player at Wits. She's my player at the national team as well. Maybe can you invite her for a trial so that you can have a look at her? I think that was a while ago, 1998. Yeah, it shows you my age. So so they said, come have a look at her. You can have a look at her, see if you like her or not. They invited me to the Banyana trials. I think I got to wake up when I got to that camp, because the level of football that these ladies were playing, it was wow. It was amazing. I was nowhere near what these girls were playing. When you look and you're like, wow. But then they took me on a tournament. They took me on a tournament. They had friendly games, one in Kenya, two in Kenya and one in Egypt. So they played a friendly game in Kenya. We went to Egypt to play another friendly, then came back to Kenya, played a friendly, then came back, because we're preparing for the 1998 women's AFCON. And then we were a squad of maybe 23, 25 players. When we came back, they had to cut players. When they cut me from the team, I did not mind. Well, firstly, because I had my exams coming up. Secondly, because I felt I was not good enough for the squad. When you're like, I'm not good enough for the squad. These girls are amazing. But I left that camp feeling I would really want to play for this team one day, and be on the same level as these phenomenal players. And it meant that I had to go and work hard. But at the same time, I couldn't forget my schooling, because my parents kept reminding me, we send you to university for a degree, not for a football career. So they kept reminding me of that. So I wrote my accounting exams. And then that was 1998, and I continued playing for the national team, the national student team. In 2002, they reselected me for the Banyana squad. This time it was real. I think I was on the level that they wanted. I'd worked hard. I'd gotten proper coaching. I feel I was like a more fuller. I wasn't on that level, but I was a more holistic player that, someone could put into the national team. And they saw me playing at the interprovincial tournament with the university team, playing against other, we call them the regional teams. And these regional teams were really top players, that the majority were in the Banyana team. And it took us beating one team that had about 4 national team players. That's when they realized, hey, these kiddies from university, they are really great. And out of our team, university team, I think 3 of us were selected. 4 of us, including the goalkeeper, were selected for the new Banyana squad that ended up playing the qualifiers for the women's AFCON in 2002. And then we ended up playing at the women's AFCON in Nigeria, where we came fourth in 2002. And then, we went on to play the All Africa Games 2003 in Abuja, and we were based in Kaduna in Nigeria. Then we played the final in Abuja, where we came second.
Nice.
Yeah, we were Nigeria's daily bread then. You know? they were beating us every day. It's not the same these days, but we got silver medals. And then 2004, I also played in the women's AFCON that we hosted. But then I was doing my audit articles. I had studied accounting, and I studied my audit articles with EY, Ernst & Young. So from 2003, so I had a full-time job, so to speak. And I didn't have the flexibility that I used to have to travel everywhere, you know. But I had been to the World Student Games, 2001, 2003. I went to the World Student Games to represent South Africa in soccer. But 1999, I'd gone to the World Student Games to represent South Africa in basketball.
Right.
In basketball.
In basketball.
Yeah, but there was
first
no
love. Back. The ex-boyfriend. Back with the ex-boyfriend.
And then someone came and said, "Hey, someone has just been got injured for this team. So would you like?" You got considered. The way they dropped me out of the squad is the way they put me into the national team to say someone got injured. Can you get into the squad? And I was like, hey, I've never been overseas. This would be great. Spain, I'd never been there. I didn't even know where that was. So 1999, Palma de Mallorca, Spain. I represented South Africa in the World Student Games basketball. But then they introduced women's football in the World Student Games in 2001. In Beijing, that's what I represented the team in, and also in Korea in 2003. But 2003, like I said, I started my audit articles, and then I had to slow down because my hours were getting affected with me playing for the national team, the student games. So I had to really slow down a lot because half the time you find that my leave is finished, and then I take unpaid leave. I don't have enough money for rent. I don't have enough money for fuel or for taxi fare to come to work. So it became a bit difficult for me. So I had to kind of stray away from sport at some point. But I think the ultimate for soccer-wise was 2004, because I felt we were really ill-prepared for a tournament that we were hosting. I think too much emphasis was put on organizing the tournament, but they forgot about the team that had to represent the country. I remember very well because the first game we started, there was only 13 of us in the team, because the other players were in the under-19 team that went to play elsewhere. And then the first game against Ghana we played, there was only 13 of us, 2 subs, and one of that sub was a goalkeeper. So we were really ill-prepared. The other players came back, but with two weeks in camp for training, and you didn't have a league.
That was not sufficient.
It was not sufficient. So I think I realized that maybe women's football was not taken as seriously as I thought. I couldn't make a career out of it, so I had to focus on my audit accounting job, so I can get my articles, and then I can make a career out of this accounting business. I think that's how I slowly but surely drifted out of football. Although I played like league games for Soweto Ladies. There was a club I played for, Soweto Ladies. And I continued playing for Wits basketball in the leagues. We had the Metro League. But that was more for fun. It wasn't like someone would force me to be at a game, to be making, the national team. No, by then, 2004, it was a short career, to be honest. I just decided I'm going to focus on my career, and there was no career in basketball or soccer that would help me put food on the table. And it's something that my parents always emphasized, to say, one day you're going to have to take care of yourself. We won't be here. So make the right decisions. And that's exactly what I did.
Today's episode is sponsored by Statement. Statement is a media company focused on editorial coverage and market analysis of the African entertainment industry. Its production arm builds a pipeline for African women filmmakers. Magic Johnson, Samuel L. Jackson, and Latanya Richardson Jackson are among the investors that support the Statement's mission. We are big fans. Beautiful. It's a beautiful story. I mean, very touching to see this constant tension between your three love interests. Satisfying your brain and your career, satisfying your love for basketball, satisfying your love for soccer/football at all times, trying to be there for them, watching who's there for you, and ultimately picking a home. Definitely, I would argue that your current role allows to cover many of your grounds at the same time, and satisfy your love for athleticism, which is really the visceral essence of you when I listen to your whole story. Because the whole track, before landing to even basketball and football, all these different sports you started and participated into. So this new life, tell us about South African Football Federation and how you landed there and how you climbing and taking this mountain to a new level.
Yeah, so it took me changing a career to end up where I am. Remember, I did audit articles. I didn't qualify as a chartered accountant, by the way, despite traveling everywhere with my university books, preparing for the board exams for this accountancy. I never really made it. I wrote that board exam many times and I didn't succeed. My friends did, but I felt I just couldn't get. I don't know if I was playing is because of the sport that I wasn't getting this side of the accounting, or is it because my passion wasn't there? I just can't tell what it is that didn't make me break that barrier of getting the board exam. But anyway, I continued in accounting. After I finished my audit articles, I stayed at EY. We worked on the 2010 financial platform where we were servicing the 2010 local organizing committee, doing their finance, their banking, etc., as they were setting up shop for the 2010 FIFA World Cup. That was around 2005, 2006. So I worked on that, and because of my football background, that's how they got me into my football and accounting background. That's how the partner got me on his team. In 2007, I applied for a scholarship, the Chevening Scholarship, to study sport management, a master's in sport management. I was just in the office minding my own business. Someone said, "Hey, look, they're saying they're offering these scholarships to anyone who's working on the 2010 LOC. I thought you would be great because you told me you like sport." Actually, the course that I'd applied for at university before I took BCom, it was, or BCom accounting, was a BCom in sport management. But I had no one funding me. EY came to say they'll fund me to study accounting. I did not know what accounting was, but I had a funder. So I took accounting. That's how I ended up studying accounting. My parents, they didn't have enough money to put me at WITS. I mean, WITS was a prestigious university. Of WITS, your UCT, those were top quality universities with high fees. My parents couldn't have afforded those. So my parents said, "Look, if you want to be a teacher, great. You can go to University of Limpopo. We'll pay. We'll do our best, or a training college, we'll do our best so that, we can get you teaching. And my mother was a fan of us being teachers because she felt it would give us flexibility in life when we grow up. That's why 2 of my sisters are teachers now. And I envy them, to be honest, because the holidays, they're on holiday.
For 2-3 months.
And, they can juggle their family lives, a lot easier than I do. But I don't think then I was into teaching. I think I wanted sport. I wanted to be in a sport environment. But like I said, I didn't have the funding for that. EY said, there's accounting, you'll be rich. And someone said, you'll be rich if you study accounting. And I was like, okay. That's how I got to study accounting. But deep down, I wanted to study sport management. I even got accepted at the University of, what is now University of Johannesburg. Then it was Rau. They spoke a lot of Afrikaans. I sucked in Afrikaans. But I was prepared to do night classes, which were in English. And then I said, no, you know what, during the day, I will work so that I can raise my fees to pay for my degree, and at night I would go to classes. That's how it worked it out. But until EY came on board and said, forget that sport management, do this, and then I was okay. So that's how I got into, when they offered me when someone told me about an opportunity to study a master's in sport management, I jumped on the opportunity because I was like, I always wanted to be in sport. So this is an opportunity for me. So I applied for the scholarship. And it was last minute things. I didn't even give them half of the information they needed. I just told them whatever I need to tell them, gave them whatever I need to give. And then I put in the application. And then I think a month later, they said, hey, we see your application here. There's some information missing. We're inviting you to the interview, but when you come to the interview, bring these outstanding documents. So I was like, oh, great.
Wow.
So when I went to the interview, I took the documents, and I suppose I impressed them in the interview because I got the scholarship to go study a master's in sport management in the UK, financed by the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, which is under the British government. So I let go of my job at EY. The 2009 Confed Cup was coming up, the World Cup was coming up. But I let go of that so that I can take up the opportunity and go to the UK. And I'll tell you what really pushed me to go to the UK and give up a job that was well paying and it had big prospects. December 2007, the 31st of December, I lost my mother. And then 10 days later on my birthday, my father had a stroke. So he was bedridden for a while. We took him to hospital. When he had a stroke, we took him to hospital. He was in hospital until the 3rd of March when he died. That was like 3 months later when, the difference between my mother going and my father. So that really cut deep. It cut deep. And this opportunity, when they told me you've got this opportunity, I didn't think twice. I just needed to clear my head, just move away from everything. Because I just lost 2 people that meant the world to me. So I took the opportunity and I put everything down. I sold my car. Rented out my place, and I got on the flight. I told my family and the people I worked at EY, I told them. They didn't want me to leave my job because they wanted me to come back, but I said, you know what, I think I need to start on a clean slate. I need to find myself, reflect, is this the path that I really want to go on, or is there another path that I want to take in life? So that's why I resigned. Despite the objections, I resigned. And then I went to the UK for a year. So when I came back, I didn't have a job. I tried. EY said, come back. I said, no. I thought about it. I said, I don't want to be in accounting. I don't want to be in accounting. I know very well I want to be in sport. And I tried different people. They didn't have a job for me. Eventually, from spending lots of time at SAFA House, which had the 2010 LOC, the FIFA South Africa office and the match office, someone said, hey, man, we're looking for a venue marketing coordinator for Soccer City. You'll be perfect for the job. So get in there. There's a moratorium. There was a moratorium on hiring, but they made a plan, and then I got in there. I didn't care about the salary. I was in. I just wanted to be in. Then I remember at some point I helped a little bit with basketball. Can't remember what I was doing with the basketball people. I helped them with something, but then I took out some odd jobs, like audit jobs. I would help like small firms do audit jobs that didn't take 2 weeks, just so that I can have something, to live on. And I moved back to Soweto in a back room because the house my parents had lived in, we were renting it out to somebody else. So I lived in a small room. I didn't mind. There was no rent to pay. After the World Cup, I worked at Soccer City during the World Cup, where we hosted brilliant matches, including the opening and the final of the World Cup. And I really enjoyed it. I thought maybe I'd like to do this, with FIFA or somebody. But when that vibe and hype was gone, I was like, no, man, next World Cup, I'd like to watch. I don't want to be working and going up and down. I'd like to watch this thing. But then I went back to the UK at some point because I had a post. No, I didn't want to use the post-study work visa. I didn't want to work in the UK then. I went back for fun, but then came back when I was told about the women's AFCON that was happening here in Johannesburg. That was 2010. I became the team liaison officer for Banyana Banyana. But that was a short tournament, 1 month. It's actually the women's tournament is like 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks it's done. And then after that, I applied for another job to be the sports officer at Wits, my former university.
Yes.
And the head of sport, they knew me, and it was, I followed the recruitment process. I became the best applicant. I don't know if I was the best applicant because I used to play sport there, or was really the best applicant. I don't know. But I got in, and I got a lot of negativity from the people I studied with at Wits when they came across me. They were like, what are you doing here? Sport is a hobby, man. It's something that we do after hours. You shouldn't be working in sport. You should be working in the corporates, the big offices. And I just told them, look, I don't intend to be here for forever. I see this as a stepping stone to somewhere. I don't know where, but it's a stepping stone to somewhere else. Basketball was one of my sporting codes, by the way. So I was always in basketball. They didn't give me football. They were like, you like soccer too much. No to soccer. It was fine. But then after 2 years, I think I was enough. And I was like, I need to move on. Then that's when I decided to activate my post-study work visa in the UK. I said, let me go to the UK. There's Olympic Games. Let me go try to find a job there or work on the Olympics. So I rented my apartment again. I was about to sell the small car that I had. When someone at the Football Association came and said, man, we're looking for a team manager for Banyana Banyana. I was like, what? They said, no, Banyana is qualified for the Olympics and we're looking for a team manager. And the coach then had coached me as a student. The two coaches, actually, the head coach and assistant coach, had coached me before. So I think they're the ones who recommended me. So I went there for a preferential interview, and then they offered me the job. So I had to cancel the agreement that I had for a new tenant and everybody, so I couldn't go to the UK anymore, although I already had the visa. So I said, hey, Banyana's going to the Olympics. I might as well, service them. So I serviced them for 2 years as a team manager, 2012 until 2014. Yeah, as the team manager. We went to the Olympics. We went to the Cyprus Cup. We got silver medals in the women's AFCON in Equatorial Guinea. participate in several tournaments, which was fantastic. I was now on this other side,
Yes.
Fighting the players, Well, I was the middleman then because it was the players, it was the association, then I was the middle person. It was great learning experience, but I felt after being a team manager of a national team, football team, what then? Where do you go? To me, there was no career path. So that's why I was like, after 2 years, I had to find something else.
Oh.
And the University of Pretoria came knocking on my door to say they're looking for a deputy director with a strong finance background, someone who knows sport, bit of marketing. I had a little bit of marketing, in other elements. HR, I worked with people, so I couldn't say that was a weakness. So they also gave me a preferential interview and they hired me. So I packed everything I had and then I went to work at the University of Pretoria. And yeah, I stayed at UP for a good 7 years. I was comfortable. It was a good environment. Very supportive environment. I got to study. I got to do whatever I wanted, and it was more like a family environment, so I felt whatever was lacking in terms of me surviving in a football space or in a corporate space, UP taught me a lot, and prepared me for where I am now, obviously with things like the South African Women in Sport Foundation, because they used to invite us for courses as women, future women leaders. They would invite us for courses. I did several courses on leadership. And then when SAFA, I applied for the job of I applied for the director job at tax. Because the previous director was retiring. The other one had retired already. So I applied for the job and my colleague that I was working with, he got the job. I didn't get the job. And then I started asking myself a question. If I'm going to be a deputy director, the next step is to be the director. But this guy is the same age as me. So I can't say I'm waiting for him to retire before I can be a director. So it cut out that career path was just cut because I can never be the director where I am. I have to go somewhere else to be a director. So I thought about it. I said I have to look elsewhere. I have to find opportunities elsewhere. That's when there were these interviews for the CEO of SAFA happening, and I got invited. I put in my CV. And I went for the interview. I was one of the top 3 candidates. And then they said, would I like to be the COO? Because they were also considering the position of the Chief Operating Officer. So I said, that's great. I would like to come and learn and, prepare myself for the future. So that's how I ended up at the South African Football Association in 2021.
Wow, that's spectacular.
As the COO.
That is spectacular. My sister, your story is really, really generous in lessons, and also you yourself are generous with your vulnerability. You've been very vulnerable today, and we really, really cannot thank you enough for the show, for doing this, and for all the gems that you've dropped for the youth, because there has to be an army of kids that every year go through that journey, and just being able to see that if you are focused, determined, perseverant, you get to the goal, and that you're always going to be torn. Your story is full of being torn by either this job, this role, this sport, that sport. But fundamentally, along the journey, it works out towards where your passion and your best, the best of you, finds a home. It's really splendid. And I cannot not close it without asking one question to separate. If you had a chance to speak to the 10-year-old version of yourself and were given a chance to forgive yourself, what would you forgive yourself for?
I think what I would say to a 10-year-old Lydia Monyepao living in a village called SAFA with nothing, I would say believe in yourself, be confident in yourself. You can be whatever you want. You can be whatever you want. All these opportunities that I got, I didn't know they existed. I was limited to what I knew, but the world was so big. But if you go out there and discover, the world is your oyster, you know. So I think it's a message I drum into my kids every morning. Go out there. Yes, be kind, but be confident in yourself. Believe in yourself. Because if you don't, no one else is going to believe in you. And then if I had to forgive myself, I would forgive myself for when I got to the international school and I discovered this world. I don't know how to call it, because you come from a rural area with nothing and you get to this environment with everything. You think you have arrived. You are better than everybody. And there was one, I always had respect for my parents. I'll put that on the table. But there was one incident where my mother was at the school and she wanted me to do something. And I felt I was better than, I was better than the world. I'd arrived, and it was just a split moment where I did not show my mother respect. And up to today, I still think about it. I still pray to myself and ask myself to forgive myself for that split moment. I did not respect my mother because she was my everything.
You've forgiven yourself. Beautiful, my sister. Beautiful. Beautiful. That's lovely. Let me give you a hug. Hey, if you like today's story, press like, leave a comment, subscribe, come back for more stories from founders and funders changing the face of sports, tech, entertainment, and fashion from Africa to the rest of the world. We look forward to seeing you again soon.